Good morning. What I would like to talk about today is how, let's see if I can get this right, the way that things kind of become common knowledge, even though they're actually wrong, or at least maybe not necessarily right. How's that? I can think of a number of good examples that probably many of you may have already heard of. A really good one. How about the three wise men in the Jesus story? When you read the Bible, you find out that there weren't three wise men. What there were wise men bearing three kinds of gifts. And due to things like art, over the years, they have just come to be understood to be the three wise men, and they even put it into movies depicting the nativity, storybooks, etc., etc. Now, one had frankincense, one had myrrh, and one had gold. And so in the paintings, they would paint one wise man with frankincense, one wise man with gold, and one wise man with myrrh. I believe that the artist never intended to create any kind of misunderstanding. It's just kind of what happened over time. People saw a painting of the three wise men, and they just came to understand there were three wise men. And there really weren't. There were wise men bearing three kinds of gifts. I could go into that even a little bit further, but I'll save that for another time. There are other examples of this kind of thing that have happened. It's just over the years, a little misunderstanding has led to a quote-unquote common knowledge, something that isn't even necessarily wrong. Again, just not quite correct either. And the one I would like to talk about, and I discussed this in a book that I'm working on, is this idea that in the garden, Genesis story, after God created Adam and Eve, and chapter, of course, after he created the rest of his creation, the serpent came to Eve, had a little discussion with her. She told him that they were told that they could eat of any of the fruit of the garden. If they ate of the fruit that was in the midst of the garden, they would surely die. The devil says, "Oh, no, you won't. You'll be fine." And so she eats it, and she gives some to her husband, and then we have the fall. And the common understanding of this seems to be that just basically, one day the serpent came to Eve, have this little discussion with her one time, and she just says, "Okay," and eats the fruit. I don't accept that, and I could be wrong. Obviously I wasn't there, but I don't think that is exactly how it happened. And when you read the Genesis account, I think you can see kind of how the confusion happened. At least in this case, I don't believe the confusion was created by artists painting pictures of what happened. I think it's from a reading of the text. And I think the reason why the text reads the way that it does is because possibly at the time, Adam and Eve were the first of creation. They may not have had a written language, and the story may have simply got told orally, passed down from generation to generation until proper written language existed. And often, when you read of stories like this, you find that they get truncated, shortened, to make the telling easier. Because if you overcomplicate a story, it's more easy for it to be forgotten, for details to be left out. my belief is that this was actually, and I'm driving, of course, so I don't have the text in front of me, but if you read the story, look it up and read it, it never actually says that this was a conversation that just one day happened, one time. It just says that it happened, that the devil came to her, and they had this discussion, and she was tempted, ate of the fruit, and gave it to her husband. But I believe that it actually is something that happened probably day after day. Sometimes maybe he came to her 4 or 5 times a day. And what happens when somebody does that? It wears you down. They tell you about something that you do well. Yeah, they say it's bad, but it's really pretty good. I mean, picture a friend of yours, okay? There's something that they want you to try. They're like, come on, just try it, it's good. You like it. Just try it. Try it. It's not bad. Oh, all these people that keep telling you it's bad, don't listen to them. It's not bad. Just keep trying it. They keep coming to you day after day with this. Till finally you just say, fine, okay, all right, I'll try it. And then you try it and it's bad. Maybe it's drugs. This is what we call peer pressure. Maybe it's just some food, in honor of one of my favorite YouTubers. Maybe it's pineapple on pizza. Oh, that's awful. Why would anybody put pineapple on pizza? Horrible, horrible stuff. I've heard one person say, I don't trust people who put pineapple on their pizza. It's a weird way to decide what you're going to trust somebody about, but I know. Point being, you hear this over and over again. Eventually you relent and you try it, and maybe you like it, maybe it's disgusting, but the point is, if they had just come to you once, you would have just gone with your gut and never thought about it again. But they get you day after day, it gets in your head. You think about it, you start to wonder about it, you start to question what you felt about it all this time. Eventually, your will is weakened, and you got it in your head that you should try this thing, even though in the past you never would have. And sure enough, here we are. Now you've tried it. Maybe you're glad you tried it. Maybe you hate it, but you've tried it when you wouldn't have otherwise. And one of my bases for thinking that this is basically what happened in the Garden of Eden, that there's no way that the serpent just came to Adam and Eve, or really came to Eve, maybe it came to Adam too. That could be another detail that was simply left out. Doesn't make the Bible inaccurate if I'm right. It's just the account may not have included all the details, and there's no reason for it to include all the details. The point of the story is still the same. But the point is that through repetition, eventually he wore them down, and they ate the forbidden fruit. I'm getting sidetracked. My point for bringing all this up is simply to make us aware of how the devil works. He's not going to tempt us with something one time and then give up. And I like to be careful about saying the devil, by the way, just as a side note. Most of the time, obviously, you probably really aren't going to be dealing with Lucifer himself. They'll probably be more likely dealing with one of his minor demons coming to us day in and day out. Side note to the side note, if you have a chance, read the Screw Tape Letters. The Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. This comes in the form today in things like social media, YouTube, it's not in our best interest to consume them. We see them over and over again until eventually we can't stop thinking about it, and we try these things that we otherwise wouldn't try. And advertising this is a technique known as branding. Not sure how that word comes to be the name for it. Maybe it's because it's kind of like putting a brand on a cow so that it's known to be yours, and they're putting a brand on your brain to know that your brain belongs to them. But it's something I want you to think about, and it's the reason why it's so important to do things like go to church, to read your Bible as often as you can. Do something that I have not managed to even do myself, by the way. Read the entire Bible. Read it all the way through. And then read it over again. My mother, before she passed away, probably read the Bible through at least 3 times that I know of. Probably more. And what this does is it gives your brain something to regurgitate to your conscious mind, to your thoughts of the day, that is higher than all these things that are being pushed in our face by the world. And it keeps our focus. And it gives us focus, it keeps our focus on the right things. Listen to Christian music. Watch Christian programs. If you're going to be on YouTube, watch your favorite YouTubers, but unless you find that they're just putting you too much in the wrong direction, maybe then you maybe need to dump a YouTuber or two. But at the very least, add into the rotation of the things that you watch on YouTube something that's more godly, something that relates to the Bible, something of higher value. This is something that we in the computer world refer to, and this is something I noted in the book that I'm working on, like garbage in, garbage out. And that's true. Then there's an inverse of that: truth in, truth out, treasure in, treasure out. Whatever we spend our time thinking about is what's going to pour out of us. So try to pour in more godly things, more good things, and less worldly things, less evil things. Now with that, I'm just about to my place of employment. This little video was a bit of an experiment. I hope it works out. I hope it meant something to you. I hope you learned something from it that will last you. And I hope to do more of them in the future, maybe with a better technique. Alright, everybody have a good day. God bless you.